Hello, Georgetown fans, and welcome into episode 7 of the Gtown Breakdown, where we're going to be breaking down the biggest game of the season. Georgetown, East View, big rivalry game, and a big-time win for the Georgetown Eagles, 31-8. Cannot express enough how proud I am of this football team to come into that game, everything on the line, like first place in district, all the emotions of that, all the emotions of the week before, and how well they played. Just a testament to the talent on this coaching staff, the talent mentally of this football team. And we're going to break it all down right here on this episode. So don't go anywhere. Thank you for joining me. And without any further distractions, let's get started. So Georgetown 31, East View 8. And defense was really the story of the first 3 drives of this football game. Eastview won the toss and elected to receive, which we expected with both these teams having such a great offense. Georgetown, obviously, we know, loves getting the football. They love getting the football first, going down and scoring points. Eastview the same way. They have a lot of faith in their offense. They trusted them to go down and score points as well. But on Eastview's first drive, they were held to a punt. Georgetown gets the ball, and after 2 first downs, they also punt. Back-to-back punts to start the game. And then Eastview's second possession is another punt after 2 Georgetown pass breakups, kind of stymied that drive, force another punt back to Georgetown. And now Georgetown's able to finally get some points on the board. Jed Walker ripped a 22-yard carry to start that drive off. He finishes the 8-play, 60-yard drive with a 7-yard touchdown to go up 7-0 on the fourth drive, second for Georgetown. And Georgetown has the first lead 7-0.
2 running backs in the backfield to either side of McDougal. Hand it to Walker, left side, finds a hole, 45. Up past midfield, he's off to the races, 45-40. Late hit out of bounds, no flag. He pulled up right at the last second. 2 receivers, right, none left. Snap back, McDougal hands it to Walker, left side, dances outside, breaks the tackle, lowers the shoulder into the end zone. Touchdown, Georgetown!
Defense is then able to get Eastview off the field again. Momentum starting to kind of shift early to Georgetown. Georgetown, after that, they go back-to-back. This one's an 11-play, 80-yard touchdown drive, a 21-yard touchdown by Xavier Warren. It was a great screenplay, great job by the offensive line, creating a big lane to getting in front of Xavier Warren and creating that big lane for him to run through. There were 4 offensive linemen in front of Warren when he caught that football, and he just you could have driven a truck through the lane that he ended up having to get into that end zone. So great play by the offensive line, great play by him to get into that end zone for the touchdown. 14-0, your score now.
3rd and 12 from the 21. Empty backfield. McDougal, wide receiver screen. Xavier Warren has blockers. 50, 10, 5. Touchdown, Georgetown.
What a great play. You knew Xavier was going to get involved at some point.
Now a drive Eastview really needs. Now down 2 possessions, 14-0. This is a drive they really have to score on to kind of halt Georgetown's momentum. And Tennyson Dean comes up massive. 2 back-to-back sacks, including a strip sack and a recovery by Johnny Decker at Eastview's 18-yard line. Stop that drive. Give the ball to Georgetown in the red zone. A monumental, legendary plays right there from Tennyson Dean playing in his final Crosstown Classic. What a play by him.
Clatter offset to the left of Guerrero on the far side. Guerrero looks left, pressured. He's going to be sacked! Tennyson Dean! Oh, baby! So it's going to be a 3rd and about 18 yards to go. Guerrero, lots of time, pressured, trips, stumbles, being chased. Goes back to the right, pressured again, hit and drop, ball's out, Georgetown has it, Tennyson Dean, the dog, never gave up, he lays out Guerrero at the 18-yard line, Gavin Smith recovers it, first down Georgetown.
So Georgetown starts inside that red zone. They end up having to settle for a field goal. They have 3 plays to get 4 yards. They do kick that, and they make it a 33-yard kick to go up 17-0.
Now the Eagles will line up to attempt the 31-yard field goal to tip. Galvez boots it away. It's up. It's good.
And then the disastrous start for Eastview continues. They go 3 and out. Georgetown's completely taking over this football game. They go on a 7-play, 56-yard touchdown drive. Jet Walker runs in a 9-yard score with about 20 seconds left before halftime to go up 24-0.
4 men in the backfield. A triangle around now. Madre empties out. McDougal hands it off. Walker right side gets a block into the end zone. Touchdown, Georgetown.
Going into halftime, Eastview had been totally throttled. They had 12 passing yards, 0 third down conversions. They had been sacked twice, both by Tennyson Dean. And really, they had to just totally scratch everything about that first half and just try to make up an entirely new game plan going into the second. But it would all start with that first drive. Georgetown starting with the football after Eastview received the opening kick. and they could not stop the Eagles. A 54-yard catch and run by Braylon Westfall ultimately set up another 9-yard touchdown by Jet Walker to go up 31-0, the first score and the first drive of the second half.
On the near side, McDougal looking to pass, does, out in the flat, catch made by Westfall, has blockers, breaks it out, he's out past midfield, 45-40, he's going to come back to the far side, 30, 25, 20, 15-yard line before he's run out of bounds all the way down at the East View 13. One receiver right, and now Xavier Warren empties out of the backfield. Hand it Jet Walker left side. He gets outside, stiff arm, 5. Touchdown, Georgetown!
That finally Eastview is able to get a drive going, and an effective run game leads to an 11-yard touchdown pass to Mikhail De Leon. A 2-point conversion is just a QB keeper by Cormac Guerrero. He goes in for 31-8. Now your score.
Guerrero with Honeycutt to his left in the backfield, middle of the field. Snap back, Guerrero fakes the handoff, pass across the middle. Catch is made, a touchdown for the Patriots. Mikhail De Leon, the senior tight end. Guerrero around the near side. He'll take it into the end zone. That's the play almost exactly they ran against Cedar Park.
Naturally, that is the final score of the ball game, so it was all defense the rest of the way. Georgetown on the next drive catch a bit of a break. Jet Walker fumbles on a 33-yard run that was recovered by a re-erosion, and they end up having 3 straight incompletions after that to force a punt.
3 receivers right, none left. Snap back to McDougal. Hand it to Jet, left side. Makes the man miss, gets a block, and up past the 30, 35, ball's out, and the Eagles can't get on it, and it's going to be turned over, it looks like, to the Patriots. Nope, Georgetown may have fallen back on it at the 50-yard line.
Eastview actually fumbles the next time they have the ball. It was a great hit by Tyler Leininger to force that fumble and recover on what was a promising drive for Eastview.
Snap back to Guerrero, fakes the handoff, pass, receiver screen, 35, makes the man miss, and then gang tackled, ball's out, Georgetown has it, Johnny Decker dives on it, and Georgetown gets their second turnover of the ball game.
And then after that, Georgetown throws the ball 3 times, they actually have a -1 yard completion, that's all they have, they punt it back to Eastview. Eastview goes totally marching on their next drive, they have 16 plays to take it from their own 6-yard line all the way to Georgetown's 5. But ultimately, they end up turning it over on 4th and goal from the 8.
7:40, the clock runs. Snap back, Guerrero. False start, not called. Guerrero looking to pass, pressured. He's got an open look, throws on the run, the pass, incomplete! Incomplete, no flags, turnover on downs.
Final drive for Georgetown, they end up going 37 yards. They'll punt it away, and then Eastview runs the next 3 plays to end the game. So some quick drive notes. Georgetown scored 31 straight points to open this game, including 5 straight drives. After punting their first drive, they scored 4 touchdowns and a field goal after that. And a big shout out really quick to the student body. It was electric, everything you could want in a big momental rivalry like this was. Everything on the line, first place in district, and then could not ask for a better crowd that showed up to that game. So big shout out to those guys. They came out and supported the team, had their back the whole time. Student section was going nuts. It was a lot of fun to watch. Super, super excited about the future of this team, but super, super excited about what they're able to do this past game against Eastview. And a big shout out to everybody who came out and supported them. Statistically, for the Georgetown Eagles offense, throwing the ball, McDougal was 10 of 19 for 137 yards and a touchdown. Running the ball, Jet Walker, 26 carries, 220 yards, a season high for him, and 3 touchdowns as well. He had a long of 33. Also running the ball was Weston Stewart, 4 carries for 24, and Zach Guyton, 6 for 14. Receiving ball, Westfall led the team 3 catches for 71 yards. Copeland Madry had 3 catches for 30. Xavier Warren had 3 catches, 25 yards, and a touchdown. Brad Bratton had 1 catch for 11 yards. Big picture-wise, 55 plays was the total for Georgetown. They had 395 yards, averaging 7.2. They had 36 runs for 258, also averaging 7.2. And then they passed it 19 times for 137, also averaging 7.2. So a heavy dose of the run game, and those splits almost double the amount of run plays they did pass. They were also 4 of 9 on 3rd down. They had no sacks, no turnovers, punted the ball 4 times, and they had 8 penalties for 85 yards. Defensively, very impressive day for Georgetown. Guys were flying over the field. Now, as always, going to preface, my tackle numbers are going to be a little bit different than what Georgetown officially posts. It's always a little bit difficult trying to see who makes the first play tackling-wise, because a lot of times there's 7 players right there next to the ball, and it's a little difficult to see who got there first or who all is in that pile. So my numbers are going to be a little bit different, but from what I had Tennyson Dean having 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 TFLs, and a forced fumble. I had Cole Mitchell with 7 tackles, Easton Smith with 8 tackles, Reagan Bollinger had 7 tackles, a half a sack, and Tyler Leininger had 6 tackles, 3 TFLs, and a forced fumble as well. In total, the team had 8 TFLs, 3 sacks, and 4 PBUs. I mean, just a tremendous day from start to finish for that defense. Big numbers for them. They allowed 59 plays for 244, which is about 4.1 average a play, which is below what you want at about 5 or 6. 39 times Eastview ran the ball for 175 yards, 4.5 a carry, which is decent. But then 20 pass attempts for 69 yards, 3.5 pass attempts, averaging rather, is really, really bad offensive numbers and extremely, extremely good defensive numbers. They just totally back-end stuffed the East View Patriots. They could not get anything going in the pass game. Super impressive day from them. On third downs was another big story in this game. Eastview finished 5 of 13, but they did not have a first down conversion until the second half. They were 0 of 6 in that first half, and that was really the story of what allowed Georgetown to build that early lead. Additionally, they were 1 of 2 on fourth down. The big story of that defense, though, is their ability to stop the scramble threats. Guerrero got just totally bagged up by this defense, and it was really the best we've seen them play against a scrambling quarterback, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But Guerrero had 12 carries for 31 yards. His longest was 17. The back end also played excellent. No receiver had more than 32 receiving yards. Additionally, Guerrero only had 69 yards passing, and he was a guy that came into this game averaging almost 300 yards of offense by himself. So the fact that he had 100 total yards, just a testament to how well this defense really played. As far as my MVPs go, there are a couple names that really stood out above the others in regards to just overall impact. Offensively, I went with Jet Walker again, but also the offensive line, because I think this was, all things considered, their best performance all season long. And then defensively, I think Tennyson Dean more than earned it. He had a all-time performance against Eastview this past Friday night, rather. I mean, he just played phenomenal from start to finish. He was a difference maker, high-impact game wrecker on that edge, and the things that he was able to do and stop Eastview from doing were just tremendous. So I think those guys really stood out as my MVPs for this Friday night game. Jet Walker, what a player. What a treat it is to watch him go out there every Friday night and just go to work. He had 26 carries, 220 yards, and 3 touchdowns. His yardage has increased every single week this season, starting off with a 26-yard performance in the 2 drives he played against Victoria East, missed the Belton game, and then ever since then, it has just been scaling up, but it's been scaling up from a very high floor. Every single week that he's played the entire game, he's gotten over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns. That's 5 weeks in a row now, over 100 and multiple scores. This guy is just totally, he's found that MVP form of last year where he's now becoming that RB1 established bell carrier. And in these past 2 games that he had the 30 carries against Rouse and now 26 here against Eastview, he has 56 total, 412 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's averaging 7.4 a carry over the past 2 games, where he's really been that RB1, where he hasn't had as much of a timeshare split as we saw earlier in the season, where he maybe had 12 or 13 carries, and Zach Guyton and Weston Stewart also had about that amount. He's really taken control of that running back room now, and now he's really earned it. He's earned it from the stuff that he put in last season, how talented he was, and obviously going on and winning that district MVP. And even this season, just showing that last year has not, and the injury didn't affect him at all. Nothing's changed from last year. He's still that player. He's still that guy. And he's playing at an all-time level right now. There's no doubt why he got that offer to West Virginia. He's really the focal point of this offense, and he's the guy that elevates it. He is the person who gets the ceiling and pushes it as high up as it'll go. And right now, this offense will go with him, but it also is not totally reliant on him, which makes him, to me, my MVP. Because the fact that it will go with him, it's the most important detail about this offense. He has just been the difference maker. He's been the MVP these past couple games. This is his 3rd week in a row where I'm giving him MVP. But also, when Georgetown needs a drive, when they need a play, when they need a first down, he's the guy they go to. They lean on Jet Walker and his ability to run the ball. But not only that, they lean on that offensive line. And that is the second element of my offensive MVP. I think this offensive line played their best game, all things considered, against Eastview this past week, because Eastview has a very, very athletic front. They've got a guy committed to Texas Tech. They've got athletes up there, and they showed out. I mean, no sacks on Caleb McDougall is a testament to how effective they were able to play, and they also had the coaching staff has so much trust in that offensive line to call as many run plays as they did versus pass. to just lean on those guys to tell them up front that we're going to take these 4 or 5 defensive linemen and push them backwards time and time again and continually have success doing it is just so impressive to me. This is really what summarizes my argument. In the final Georgetown drive of the ball game, they still had runs of 26, 5, and 10 yards. The fact that and some of that is obviously due to the running backs making people miss getting yards after contact, but the offensive line is where everything starts. Because if you've got guys blowing things up 3 yards in the backfield, you're not going to get those 22-yard runs. You're not going to get the 5 and 10-yard runs. You're going to get losses. But that offensive line all game long was able to play so effectively. It was just so impressive to watch. No sacks, obviously very effective running the ball. It wasn't a perfect game by the offensive line, but they played very, very well, all things considered. And to me, that is why they also are more than deserving of the MVP shout-out. Defensively, Tennyson Dean, I mean, what a game from the dog, D-A-W-G, not D-O-G. I mean, that performance is something we're going to talk about for a long, long time. Once again, he had 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 TFLs, and a forced fumble. But before I got fully into that, I wanted to give a big shout out to Tyler Leininger, who I also thought had a superb game, his best game of the season. He had 6 tackles, TFLs, and also had a forced fumble as well. But Tennyson Dean, those back-to-back sacks he had on the plays where he had the strip sack and ended up giving the Georgetown the ball in the red zone. I've never heard Berkelback Field get that loud. I've never heard Wally get that loud in a long time. I mean, the energy that he brings to this football team, not just from his talent, but from his leadership, from his ability to rally the team, I just think is unprecedented on this roster. I think he is the most important player on that defense just because of what he brings to the table. Once again, not just because of how talented he is, but his leadership and his mentality. I always go back to thinking the second half of the Coppers Cove game, the first half of the Coppers Cove game, really, before that halftime, he rallied the defense around him, and he had a pep talk with them that no coaches were around. It was just him and the guys, and that really sparked that defensive change, the defensive shift that ultimately led Georgetown to come back and win that game against Coppers Cove. And the defense has not really struggled nearly to that extent they did in the first half against Coppers Cove since that talk with Tennyson Dean. And that is no coincidence. I think he has been able to galvanize the team around him and rally them around him and his leadership. And they've all bought into the energy and the vision now. And they understand what their identity is, and they're playing with that identity, it just takes this team to a whole nother level. But he has just been a total game wrecker off the edge, more than deserving of the MVP, not just for the stats. His importance for this team cannot be overstated in just what he brings by being out there on the field, what his leadership does to the other guys around him to know that he's got their back if something goes wrong, and he also can make the heck of a plays like he did on the 3-man rush against pretty much a max protection to still fight through that and get that strip sack. What a play by the dog, D-A-W-G, Tennyson Dean, my defensive MVP. Some quick takeaways from that game against East View. I've got 3 of them. Firstly, Georgetown's mental maturity cannot be overstated coming out of that football game. We talked about it a lot in the pregame and the week leading up to it, but there were so many different elements at play there. Not just that it was a rival, but that now it was the other undefeated team in district, the 5-1 East View Patriots, the 3-0 in district East View Patriots. Not only were they the undefeated rival, but you were also coming off of a game where that took a lot out of you, that Rouse had a furious comeback that you just kind of had to hold on to survive in the end and ice the game with a couple first downs late. So many different things coming into that football game that we were questioning in the pregame. Okay, maybe a team might come out a little flat. Maybe a team could just have so much going on that they don't play up to the level that we've been used to seeing from them. And we thought that the team that does that is probably going to drop this football game. And Eastview they did that. Eastview was the team that could not rally themselves mentally. They really couldn't get things figured out. And Georgetown, after punting the ball in the first drive, had the 5 straight scoring drives. Defense was lights out all game long. They looked totally in phase and in focus. That was really the story of the game to me. You got to give a big credit to the coaching staff for getting these guys ready, getting these guys prepared to go out and play that game, and not letting the outside noise and the outside elements and the outside factors come in and affect how they performed on that Friday night, because they had no idea what Eastview was going to look like. They had no idea if Eastview was going to come out flat like they did, or if they were going to come out polished and well executing like they didn't. And if they did do that, then Georgetown would have to be right there with them. Because if then Georgetown falls out flat, this score could have easily inverted. And so a big shout out to that coaching staff for getting the guys ready, and then a huge credit to the players for going out there, trusting the game plan, and executing at a high level, even when so many things are going on, even in a game of that magnitude, to calm down, to just look poised and collected. Coach talks about it all the time, nameless face his opponent, and just ready on be the best team that you can be. Focus on being the best player you can be for your team. And we really saw that in great effect this past game. Secondly, the mobile quarterback was not an issue in this game. That was the biggest question that I think we all had coming into it, knowing how fast and how elusive Cormac Guerrero was for Eastview at quarterback, and knowing that that's really been the biggest challenge for Georgetown's defense has been covering the mobile scrambling guys, and they had very little difficulty containing him in the pocket and eliminating the explosive plays. He came in almost averaging 100 rush yards a game, and he also led the team in rushing yards coming into this football game. He finished with 31 on 12 carries, and he was not nearly as effective as their traditional running back Clatter was with the ball in his hands. There was excellent contain on pass plays as well. Guerrero couldn't hurt them like London Morgan could for Rouse, who was able to, rather than create and run, he created and extended and found players down the field throwing the football and kept drives alive that way. And Guerrero couldn't do anything like that either. He had less than 100 passing yards in this game, 9 of 20 completions. He really had nowhere to go with the football, and the defensive line deserves a ton of credit for being able to limit the explosivity of these mobile guys. They're so challenging. They're so tough to guard against because they can beat you so many different ways. You have to be cognizant of so many different things as a defensive player, and it's just a tough ask to keep all of that in your head. Like, okay, I can't rush too far because I can't let him break contain. I've got to stay contained up here so I can't go to this way. Okay, if he's scrambling out, what angle, how do I pursue him? So many different things going on, and they did all of them to a very, very high level. And so a big shout out to that defensive line. They really stepped up in a big way against, to me, the most effective scrambling quarterback that they faced all season long. This was the guy that led Eastview's in rushing yards. He was so explosive. He had a big breakaway run to start that Lake Belton game of a multiple 60-yard touchdown run. So this guy had all the talent in the world that could have turned this game in Eastview's favor, and Georgetown's defense just did not let it happen. A big shout out to them. It is probably too early to say the issue has been fixed because it has just been that one sample size of a game, but it is a great start going forward to meet the challenge of that Cormac Guerrero and that Eastview quarterback, and to meet that challenge and just totally box him in and clamp him down and prevent him from taking over that football game. A great sign for that Georgetown defense to come away with such a dominant performance against him. And thirdly, Georgetown has a bit of quiet confidence going, and what I mean by that is multifold. So firstly, Georgetown has won games in every which way possible. They've won with defense. They've won with offense. They've come back to win. They've survived and held on to a win. They've dominated wins. They know that they can beat whoever they line up against in any different way. They don't have to play two different ways to win a game. They don't have to funnel all of their focus on scoring 60 points to win. They don't have to funnel all their focus on preventing them from scoring anything to win. They can win in any which way, and that allows them to go into a game feeling a little bit more loose, a little bit more free, because they're not having to spend all of your time worrying, okay, if we don't score 42, we're going to lose. Or if we don't score 10, we're going to lose because either our offense can't score or defense can't stop them. That's not the case here. They can win any which way, and they have that confidence now going into whoever they play against, that no matter how the game ends up looking like, they know that they can come out on top because they've already done it. And since they've already done it, they can draw from that experience and carry that into the next week's games. So regardless of how Glenn goes or Lake Belton or Cedar Park down the line, they'll have that confidence knowing regardless of how things play out, muddy or pretty, they know that they can get into a dogfight and win. They can go to a ballet dance and win too. They can win any which way. And that's the most important thing, I think, going forward for this football team, is that confidence, the fact that they can win any which way. Secondly, they know who they are. They're fast, they're physical, they've got their identity kind of figured out. They can get creative offensively. There's so many different elements to this football team, and yet they haven't let it muddy who they want to be. They don't dabble in so many things that it's kind of hard to tell what they are trying to lean on or what the players are that they're trying to get involved. If you're watching the Eagles, then you know what they want to do. They want to be able to run the football through you. They're a physical north and south team. They're not somebody who's really going to spend a lot of time going to the outside except for passes. They love going to the outside with passes because it opens up the middle for the run game. It's all flowing back to the central identity of running the football right through you and establishing the physicality of the Georgetown Eagles that way. They know their offensive identity. They also know their defensive identity, which is to be physical, to be fast, to fly around and make contact, be aggressive, allow that dominant defensive front to go wreak havoc, and then in the back end, take advantage of it by driving on the football, making PBUs, making plays like that. And it's really worked wonders ever since that Copperscope second half, where Tennyson Dean and that defense really rallied around themselves, figured it out, and have played really locked down the rest of the time. Rouse had a good second half as well, but this defense is really rounded into form with a lot of new faces coming into the season. They've really come into their own, and it's been very impressive to watch. And finally, Georgetown knows that at this point in the season, if one side of the ball is a little bit slower than the other one can pick up the slack and allow them time to figure things out and round into form. And we saw a little bit of that in this past game, albeit in a very, very short time. Georgetown had the first opening drive punt, and then during that, though, Georgetown's defense had held East View to 2 punts, and then that allowed Georgetown to go rally off 5 straight scoring drives and ultimately have the 31-0 lead that they carried to the finish line. But even beyond that, if Georgetown has a slow quarter offensively, then they know that that defense can keep them in the game. They're not going to get ran over, and now you're down 17-0 at the end of the first quarter, and you're playing catch-up the whole time. They have the trust in themselves that the other side can pick up the slack whenever one side is trying to figure things out, and by the end of the game, they will have solved it, and they will be clicking again, and they'll be playing at a high level. That's the kind of confidence that I'm talking about when I say they have that quiet confidence about them. They just know in the back pockets they have so much experience, so many different ways they've won, that they're going to carry that into all their future games, and they're going to be a very, very tough out for whoever they play in the future. And then 2 quick improvements for the Eagles. Firstly, the pass game wasn't overly effective, and now it didn't have to be because the game plan seemed to be we're just going to run the ball because we're going to out-physical them, and they couldn't stop it, and they didn't. But they weren't exactly on schedule all the time whenever they were asked to throw the ball, and there was, in particular, in the third quarter, there were 2 drives where there were 6 straight pass attempts, and the Eagles went 1 for 6 for -1 yards on those 6 pass attempts. And that's the type of thing that it obviously didn't break the game for the Eagles, but against a higher quality opponent or maybe a high quality game, then that is definitely something that can come back to bite them if they are having those 2 drives going out in the sense where you're just throwing the ball and it's not clicking, especially when the run game is being so effective. So choosing to throw 6 times in a row, and getting that 1 completion for the -1 yard, it was a little bit of an interesting decision coaching-wise, and then execution-wise, also a little bit of a struggle there, just trying to figure out what was going on those 2 drives. And so pass game, again, wasn't asked to be highly effective or at an elite level because they didn't need to be, but it is something to consider going forward. It is a little bit still up and down. There's still some great pass games and then still some okay games that we didn't need them to pass super effectively. And they absolutely could have passed highly effectively if the game plan coming into Eastview was to pass really well. I'm sure that would have been a focal point and it would have looked a little bit differently. But it is always something you want to see where every aspect of the offense is clicking, not just a run game like it really was against Eastview. So something to check on going forward. And then secondly, Eastview did find some running success in the second half in particular. And while their QB wasn't able to run that as well, Javion Clatter absolutely was. He had 19 carries for 120 yards and 12 carries for 79 yards in that second half. Again, this didn't beat the Eagles, and in fact, it might have been part of their defensive game plan in that second half with the big 24-0 lead and then obviously the 31-0 lead to kind of let Eastview run the ball and milk the clock and just focus on stopping them from being able to throw down the field really well. So that could have absolutely been part of their game plan and idea going into that second half. But even still, you don't want them to be as effective as ECU really was. They had a 16-play drive where they almost went 96 yards to score a touchdown, and primarily that was because they were able to run the ball really well. Now they did get stuffed in the end zone on 4th and goal from the 8 rather, and so it did not come back to like really hunt the Eagles in any way. But that is something to continue to monitor. You always want to see as high-level play as possible in every aspect. Naturally, the perfect game isn't going to exist. It's never going to be played. But so there's always going to be these minor takeaways like this. Neither of these really hurt the Eagles in any major sense, but there are just something to continue to work on because there's always stuff to improve on in both aspects, special teams as well. There's always something that you want to tweak, that you want to get just a little bit better at every single week. There's never going to be a game where I'm going to sit here and say, there was nothing to improve on. Everything was perfect, start to finish. Nothing ever went wrong. Nothing ever can be better. And so this might seem a little nitpicky just given how well the game went for the Eagles, but it is important to always think mentally. You don't want everyone to have a team think, man, we just had a perfect game. you always want them to strive to improve on something, to get better at something. You always want them driven to be better at a specific thing, whether it is running a run defense or passing the ball or going out and making tackles or forcing fumbles, interceptions, anything like that. There's always something to get better at. And so there's always going to be these takeaways. As minor as these may seem, it might be important in the long run to always have these types of focuses going forward into Glenn, and then Lake Belton and Cedar Park to finish the season. And then speaking of Glenn, we are at the Glenn week of the season. Glenn is 0-7 coming into this ball game, and so that's going to introduce a different set of challenges for the Eagles, and they're going to be more mental than physical, and it is the battle against complacency in a letdown moment. Eagles are coming into this ball game after 2 big wins, obviously beating Rouse in that survive game, and then East View, big rivalry to take first place in district, a really dominant performance from them. And now they stay and Berkeley back now on the home side against the Glenn Grizzlies, who are 0-7. And it's going to be a battle to just make sure that they're staying focused on this week. They cannot allow themselves to start looking ahead to next week at Lake Belton, which is going to be a big game in the district as well. Lake Belton coming into this week 3-1. They're right there neck and neck with Georgetown, so a slip up might jump up Lake Belton. They've got to be able to stay focused on this game against Glenn. Regardless of how many wins or losses Glenn has, it is a district opponent that deserves all of their focus, because if Georgetown starts glancing forwards, that's when you have the mental errors, you have the turnovers, the fumbles, the missed tackles, all the things that start adding up and that can lead into the recipe for an upset. And that is what Georgetown cannot allow to happen after such dominant performance against Eastview to take home first place in district in these final 3 weeks. They've got to be able to finish this season off strong, and it starts with the mental game. You've got to be able to stay focused, and that's going to be a test on the coaching staff and the veteran leaders in that locker room. Now, obviously, the coaching staff did an amazing job getting the guys ready for the Eastview game and bouncing back from that momentous win against Rouse. And so it's going to be a different type of challenge, that whereas you don't have to get them up to play a rival, you're having to get them up to play a team that hasn't won a game. That is going to be a little bit different, because naturally when you see, Georgetown is 6-1 and they're playing Glenn, who's 0-7, you just naturally think that Georgetown should win this easily. And that's going to be the first instinct of the players too. They're going to think Glenn's going to come in here and we're going to just totally dominate them. And it's not going to be a challenge because they haven't won a game and we've won 6. That's going to be their initial reaction, because that's human nature. And it's the job of the coaching staff to battle against that and to get that thought out of their players' heads and treat them with the respect that they deserve as a football team, because everybody can beat anybody in every given week. Friday, Saturday, Sunday does not matter. And so this team's got to be focused and ready to play against Glenn on Friday night. Glenn's defense has really struggled this season. They've only held one opponent under 30 points. That was a overtime loss against Leander, where Leander scored 28. Everybody else has scored over 30, including 49 and 52 the previous 2 weeks against Lake Belton and Cedar Park, which I think profiled a little bit more similarly to what Georgetown's going to bring to the table. And so Glenn's defense is going to have a monumental task in front of them to try to right the ship against another elite offense, really 3 of the better offenses in the district back-to-back weeks. So a tough break for them. But that defense has really struggled, and so Georgetown's going to try to just test them, I imagine, both through the air and on the ground. Maybe some chunk plays down the field, testing the verticality of that secondary, and then also the physicality up front in the front 7. I think Georgetown's going to have their pregame advantage, and they're going to try to capitalize on that with some early tests. And then offensively for Glenn, they've been okay. They've averaged about 23 points a game. It's really been a struggle to stay in these games with the defense struggling as much as they have. There's also no officially posted stats, so it's a little bit unclear about how Glenn's going about this. Now, history would tell you that Glenn is still running that slot T nonsense that is, it's 2025 and teams are still running playbooks from 1825, but that's an aside. Though it's quite possible that they were going to be expecting another slot T offense, I'm really not quite sure if Glenn has modified that at all. Now, I know they're not as slot T as Liberty Hill, even when they were running that. So if they do come out with a slot T, it's not going to be as heavy slot T, no pass. It's going to be a little bit more of a mix, but that is how they've run their offense the last couple of seasons. So we'll look to see how they continue to attack Georgetown's defense that way. It has had some success. Clearly, again, they've got 23 points a game, which isn't bad. It's just not been enough to keep them in games where the defense has struggled so much. Now, if Georgetown can stay focused, can stay disciplined, and play the game that they know they can play, I think they should be able to come out on top of this game. But there's a reason these games are played on the field and not on paper. Because on paper, Georgetown's got every advantage. Georgetown should just march on to a victory, but it's not played on paper. They've got to go out onto that field and earn it on that Friday night. And so it should be a good one. District games always have a little bit of intrigue to them, no matter what the records might say, no matter what your feeling is coming into them. There's always upsets. There's always things that could happen. You never really know with high school football what you're going to get every single week. And so it should be another exciting one at Brookleback. And so that'll do it for me. So that will wrap things up for me. As always, so much to get into and so much we got through. A big game, big time winner against East View. Always nice to get that rivalry victory. Always nice to show who little brother really is over there. But after that, you got to move on. And we've got Glenn coming up. It's going to be a tough game no matter what the records indicate. And then obviously Lake Belton and Cedar Park to finish the season. It's crazy it's gone by so quickly. But as always, if you can't make it in person this Friday night and any of the Friday nights to come, join us on First Responder Broadcasting, the SHN YouTube channel. We'll have all the games, 6:15 pregame, 7 o'clock kick. We also have the coaches show Wednesday nights, rather. At Camp Brightside, be there if you can. If not, we'll also have that information, have some player interviews, some trivia. It's a lot of fun. And then this will go up I believe hopefully Monday or Tuesday, and then we've got it into a little bit of a rhythm now, so every week this should be able to go up on Monday or Tuesday, breaking down last week, looking forward to the next game. And so it's a fun, exciting time to be a Georgetown Eagle fan. Georgetown takes possession of first place in district, looking to carry that 3 more weeks to seal it in the regular season and then make a playoff run. So exciting to be a Georgetown Eagle fan right now. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening in, for watching to the end of this video. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you on Friday night. Thank you.